hello over there. This isn't going to be difficult to get used to. Hello, welcome. It's me, it's Rob, it's the Synth Network special. We are live, completely live. I can tell you what the time is. It's about 1935. Oh, almost gave it away there. 1935. Yes, we're fashionably a little bit late. And this is a completely new camera angle. And because I've got the ring light there, I'm staring right at it. So it's really not liking this a lot. The reason the camera, or my camera, is over there is because there's an overhead here now looking at the star of the show, which we will come to shortly. So welcome everyone, and hope you've had a nice start to the week. It's only Tuesday. It feels, I'm going to come out of this feeling like it's the weekend. It's a special show. We have a very special guest. It's a piece of equipment which I'm sure you have figured out what it is, because it's a big picture on the front of the channel. So we thought we'd do what we normally do, which was fly by the seat of our pants and do a live demonstration. However, unlike previous instruments, I have unboxed this one. I have played with it. I have learnt how to use most of it. Not that it's incredibly difficult. This is quite a simple thing to get hold of. So it won't be, hopefully, too much of a car crash. Just in case it is, though, I have been joined by my usual compadres on the Synth Network live show. And they are, of course, Mr. Andrew Longhurst, but first, Mr. Kent Spong.
Hello. My job is to put out the traffic cones.
Okay.
Just in case.
Just in case. You never know. You never know. It is going to be a bit of a... No, it should be fine. It should be fine. It's only been a couple of days since I last spoke to you. How you been?
Yeah, the same.
Okay.
Although slightly better, because that lump's working now.
I say you're burning that in, are you?
Yes. Yeah.
Lovely.
Well,
nice and...
the word burn does appear in the sentence, yes.
Indeed. Well, hopefully it won't catch flames during the show, although that would be a rather spectacular thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, just as a little, side event.
Yeah, we could, that would get lots of clicks and views, I'm sure. Not that we want that.
No.
Jolly good. Anyway, thank you for joining as per, and of course the other reprobate that sits on the left hand. It's Mr. Andrew Longhurst, who seems to be away with the fairies. Here he is.
What?
Hello.
What are you doing here? This is Tuesday. What?
I know. We are invading.
I was about. Oh no, nothing. No,
you weren't about to have a Tommy, were you?
Not Paul night.
No, nothing going on here.
Jolly good.
You said Wednesdays is Paul night. What?
Ken, can the memory moog? Does the memory moog get Alzheimer's?
Yes.
Okay. Thought I'd ask.
At least, as far as I remember, it did.
It's good you can remember.
What are we doing here?
Indeed. Anyway, there we are. We're here. And we're joined by a guest. And that guest, of course, as you can see, is...
oh, my Lord.
It's the Arturia AstroLab. And before we just do that, I just need to make sure that I've got the other thing loaded up onto my screen, because that's quite important. That's the software package. Anyway, so here we are. This is Arturia's AstroLab, which was kind of officially announced about just over 2 hours ago on their live stream. Frederic and Gilles, the co-founders of Arturia. Of course, Gilles has gone off to do other things, but he's still kind of, they're still very friendly and attached. They both turned up for this kind of 25th anniversary kickoff. And to kick off what will be a very exciting period for Arturia, they announced this thing, which is, as you can see, let me just make it the star of the show. There it is. This is the Arturia AstroLab. And here it is in all its glory. I've been incredibly lucky to have this for a little while now, and it is just a little while. But what we intend to do today is to take you through it, show you what it can do. Don't expect to say, if you've come here to witness fantastic keyboard playing, you have definitely come to the wrong place. Unfortunately.
Did anybody ever?
Well, quite.
Can I ask you an immediate question which was sprung to mind straight away?
Yes.
You said right at the beginning that you were busy diddling with stuff on your screen because you had to load in some software that was very important.
Mhm.
I does this doesn't need software
No.
connection to it, so it runs standalone.
It does. Yeah.
Just wanted to clear that up so that
Yeah.
we right. Cool.
No, don't worry. It'll all become clear.
Cool.
So really, let's just let's do this. Let's take that away from the screen. Let's bring everybody up here, and we'll bring the AstroLab back in. It's probably worth explaining, just sort of setting some ground rules with regards to what this is. But before we do that, because this is I'm out of all out of sorts, let's just first remember, give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe and a share as well. That would be fantastic if you could do that. If you haven't already, give us some support on patreon.com/ProSynth Network, because if you do, coming very, very soon is a brand new pack of sounds that has been given to us, and normally you would have to pay for these, but our Patreon supporters are going to get this for free, or in exchange for their Patreon subscription. So sign up there if you want to help support the channel, and there's more freebies coming your way. So if you'd like to do that, that would be fantastic. We are, of course, across YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, Threads, and the platform formerly known as Twitter. You can watch us on most of those channels. If you have a question, and I'm sure there are lots, and I'm hoping that Andy and Kent can manage those questions, or certainly queue them up and then throw them across here. We will try and answer as many of those as we possibly can. But if you do have one, then stick a big capital Q in front of that so that it stands out in the chat, and we can then hopefully address that. And if we don't answer your question straight away, don't be afraid to ask it again, just in case. What else do we need to mention? I think that's pretty much it. If you want to give us a super chat or a super sticker in the YouTube chat, that'd be great. Thank you very much indeed. And I think that's pretty much about it. So, what is AstroLab? Put simply, it's Arturia's Analog Lab Pro software in hardware. And it's a completely standalone device. However, it also works beautifully in conjunction with Analog Lab and also the mobile app. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you the mobile app because the camera that is giving you the picture of the AstroLab is my phone, and so I can't show you that. But trust me, it's seamless. It works. It's brilliant. It's very cool. So you can integrate with both your computer and also your mobile device, and I believe it is definitely iOS and Android, so there's no difference there. You can get it on both platforms, and it's a super cool little thing. Once it's connected to your AstroLab, you can just zip around, change sounds, download playlists, buy sounds online and download them to your AstroLab direct. It's really, really very cool. But we're going to be working with Analog Lab Pro as the software partner to AstroLab. So yeah, it is a hardware synthesizer that basically I don't actually know what it's running inside. I don't know whether it's like a Raspberry Pi based thing or whether
Pixies.
It's probably Pixies and Fairies and a little bit of magic dust. But it's very cool, and what it means is that you can have virtually all of Arturia's V collection synthesizers, and I say virtually all because there are some minor exceptions. Virtually all of these things are available in a hardware synthesizer, playable with macro controls and effects controls and all that kind of gubbins. First, very important thing that I really do need to stress here is that this is designed as and being advertised as a stage keyboard. This is an instrument that has been designed with stage players in mind from the ground up. Okay, so yeah, if you are a performer, if you perform on stage, if you need a variety of sounds, this is your boy or girl or them or they or whatever. It isn't a powerful hands-on hardware synthesizer, but it kind of is because of the software. It very much blurs the lines. But this is kind of like all of those synthesizers that you get in the V collection. I think there's something like 39 of these things. Virtually all of those can be played, including Pigments, the Augmented series, and all of the vintage recreations from Moog Modular to CMI, from Synclavier to the pianos and the electric pianos, the Wurlitzes, the Rhodes. All of that can be played through this, and it's super simple, and it's just so easy to use. So that's what it is. Now I was watching the live stream today, and I saw lots of people saying, oh, this isn't very powerful. I was a bit unimpressed by this. Everything that you learn about this should be prefaced by that thing that I just mentioned, that this is a stage keyboard. This is a keyboard for performers. This is not a keyboard for sound design. Not in itself. You can sound design on AstroLab or within the instruments themselves and bring those sounds in, but this itself is a stage keyboard. So preface that. Any opinion or thought you have before you let us know, just think, this is a stage keyboard, so maybe that isn't so important. Now, I'm not making excuses for Arturia. I'm just saying the whole concept of this is a stage keyboard. I don't have the wooden legs. I wish I did, although I'd not have anywhere to put it. So this is just sitting on my lovely new desk. However, just bear all of that in mind.
Sorry, I had a mate with 2 wooden legs, and his house caught fire. They managed to save the house, but he was burnt to the ground.
So early on in the show, there goes our credibility. If you see it,
what credibility?
Send it into the police. Anyway, so I guess we should start by sort of going through the specs and showing you where everything is. I guess that makes a sensible place to start. Thank you, one of our moderators. I didn't actually expect the moderators to show up today, but I'm very glad they did. Andrew Brooks, thank you very much. You were busy last Friday. Yes, apparently I saw. So yeah, very cool. Thank you very much for that. We've had a couple of questions already. I'm going to store those. Actually, the first one I will address. Conrad Gibbons says, if you are already an Arturia user and have many of their instruments, is it available cheaper than whatever it costs? And to the very best of my knowledge, the answer to that is very simple: no. You pay the price for the keyboard, and the keyboard comes with AstroLab Pro and everything that comes with that. If you own any of the V Collection instruments, then you can edit those within AstroLab Pro. But you have to remember, this is an AstroLab environment. So no is the simple answer. You buy the keyboard, you get AstroLab, you download that, and away you go with swapping and sharing and doing all that sort of thing. So I hope that clears that up. And by the way, the price, the recommended retail price was €1,599. So we get that out of the way straight away. I've seen it online already at about $1,350 UK, that is. So make of that what you will. I think that's an incredible piece of value for money when you consider what you're getting inside this box. I keep realizing I'm looking at the screen, not at there, not at you, dear users. So yeah, let's get that. So the price is out of the way. Other questions, please, if you have them, stick a big capital Q in the front of them, and they will then get hopefully picked out by the guys, and we can address that as and when. Right, okay, so I think first things first, let's bring the keyboard to the fore. Here it is. And I've saved this especially. So this arrived a while back, and I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to do it now live on the show. I'm going to do the ritual peeling of the screen cover.
That's devalued it.
I know. Doing that still makes me really anxious. I don't know why. Anyway, it's kind of drawing attention to this marvellous thing here, and I'm doing everything within my power to not call it a knob.
How?
I just failed miserably right there.
No, how?
Hal. Oh yes, Hal. Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
Dave.
This is the screen encoder, and we'll get familiar with this shortly, and I'll take you through its various functions. But this is kind of the center of the AstroLab. So this is where pretty much everything can be done and taken care of. So AstroLab, this is the screen encoder, and then just underneath there you've got a shift key, because you'll notice that some of these buttons have other functions underneath in a lighter shade of grey, I suppose. Yep. Then you've got up and down, which will move you up and down. You know, it's kind of self-explanatory. You have a back button, and if you hold shift down, that also becomes a home button that takes you to the home screen. Okay, so that's all that is. To the left, you have an arpeggiator, which is a very full-featured arpeggiator, and that's a hardware arpeggiator built into the synth, so any sound can be arpeggiated from there. And there is a chord function, so I think that's a fairly common feature on most keyboards nowadays, that you have a chord function. You press that button, you then either play the chord or you trigger each note of the chord individually, let go of the chord button, and now every key will play that chord but transposed accordingly, so depending on the key that you press. Okay, if you hold the shift button down, the ARP button becomes the ARP hold button, and the chord button becomes the scale button. And that's for people like me who want to play along with things, and we can say play something in the key of C major, and you set the keyboard to C major, and every note you play will be in that key, so it kind of makes you look a little better than you are, and I need help like that. You'll notice there's a couple of buttons here. There's a play button and a record button. That's because this contains a MIDI looper, and it is a MIDI looper, not an audio looper. So in my opinion, that's better.
Cool.
That's way better. Yeah, audio loopers are okay, but it's just like you think, oh, actually, no, I prefer that sound. Well, then you got to go and do it again. So you record your loop, and then you can just choose the voices and it'll play those voices. You can also export those MIDI loops as MIDI files, .mid files. So that's really useful, because then you can then just drop those into wherever you want to put them in. It's very, very cool. You can have 127 loops, and each of those loops can be a maximum of 32 bars. Okay, so it's not a full-on sequencer, but Can you
run more than one at the same time?
No, you have to run one MIDI loop at a time.
Okay. But it's polyphonic?
Oh yeah. As polyphonic as the constraints of polyphony allow within the keyboard, and we'll come on to that in a little while as well. So there you go. So you can record your loops, and those buttons are play and record, and also when using the shift button, this is the tempo adjustment, and this is the metronome on and off adjustment. So that's all nice and handy there. To the left of that, very simple, straightforward pitch bend wheels and modulation wheels. Unfortunately, Kent, I saw your comment earlier, they're not aluminium, but they are the same. They are the same as the ones on the Polybrute, which feel nice. They're solid, and as you notice there,
it's got a light that goes uppy downy.
It's got a light, which is always useful. Again, think of this as a stage keyboard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, so you can see straight away where your modulation wheel is. That's always very handy. And then you've got transpose buttons, 2 octaves either side of 0 in there. Okay, right. Taking us along to the right-hand side, you will notice that every key has an LED light above it. And they're not so visible over here. This is just the way that we've got the lights going here. And you might see, I don't know if it's that visible, but you might see them lighting up.
Is there any? Can you turn the lights off temporarily or not?
No.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
What use is that? Well, when you come to this part of the control surface, you'll notice that it says here part 1 and part 2. So you can have layers, so you can layer 2 different sounds or split them. And this will show you where the split is. So the left-hand side will be yellow and the right-hand side will be green. And you can set the split wherever you want, and it will show you where that is. So that's a very useful thing to have. So as I said, part 1 and part 2, and then there's the split button, and then you've got edit functions underneath each of those. And then under here, which really kind of underscores the fact that this is a stage keyboard, you have sound category buttons. So piano, E-piano, organ, bass, lead, keys, pad, strings, brass, and sequences. And then there's a playlist button. We'll come on to playlists in a little while. So you can quickly access types of sound just by hitting those buttons, and then using the screen encoder, you can cycle through and pick your sound. Above those, if you're familiar with AstroLab, you'll be familiar with these knobs here. These are endless rotary encoders, and as you can see, they've each also got an LED around them, so you can see exactly where you are. So this is really useful if you're switching from patch to patch. Obviously these settings will be different. They get changed with the patch, and you can see straight away, and there's no need for it to, you know, what do they call it when it picks up where the setting was? You turn it and nothing happens until you get to that point. It's always going to be at the right point, and then you just grab it and away you go. So brightness, timbre, time, and movement. And if you hold the shift button down, they also become volume, bass, mid, and treble for your equalizers. So 8 different functions on those. And then over here, you have your 4 effects. So you have effects A and effects B, which tend to be modulation effects. So say chorus and phaser, for example. And then you have delay and reverb. And these are just, you know, amounts, dry and wet amounts, basically. Underneath that, you've also got intensity for the modulation effects, and then time for delay and decay for reverb. So essentially what you're getting is the main functions that you know one would want if you're playing these sounds on the stage. You're not going to be getting deep into editing your effects. You just want to maybe increase the delay of that so the time of the delay or the decay of the reverb. You can just mess around it straight away. And then underneath those, you have 4 buttons that turn the effects on or off, and you'll see that that's replicated on the screen. And if you long press it, then you then get into the edit screen, and you can then change the effect. So for example, this has got a chorus on it, so we'll just go in there and we can enable it. We can mess around with all of the different features of that, so the LFO frequency, the depth of feedback, the delay, whether it's stereo or not, etc., etc. Okay, so we can get into that. Right.
I'm liking that. I just straight off. I actually quite like that display and the way it works with the buttons contextually.
Yeah.
That's one of the best designs I've seen for this kind of thing for a long time. I love it.
Yeah.
Really like it.
It is very cool. And then finally over here, master volume. That's all it is. Now, again, I don't have elaborate camera set up, so you're going to have to take my word for this. So at the back, we have a on-off switch just here, which is a recessed switch. You click it once to turn it on. You click and hold to turn it off. So it's not an easy on-off thing, which again, you know, bear in mind, this is a stage keyboard. You don't want something you can instantly turn on and off. The power cord is has a screwed thread on it as well. So yes, it is an external power brick. It's not a wall wart, it's a power brick. So just a regular 2-pin insert from the plug, and then, you know, a barrel connection here, but with a threaded locking nut on there to again stop that being pulled out. Then I have to use my fingers here, otherwise my head will come into the camera shot. So you can see here there's a USB cable here. This is a USB-C connection, and that is for connection to your computer. So it's as simple as that. Data connection to the computer. Next to that is a USB-A socket. Now the USB-A socket can be used either for external storage, and that will come in handy with the sampler function. It can also power other MIDI controller devices with a power rating of no more than 5 watts. So, as was pointed out to me by somebody at Arturia today, if you wanted, you could say connect a second keyboard, say an Arturia Keylab controller, which has all of the faders and everything on it, and you can power it directly from this, which saves a lot of messing around with. That's cool. So that's an interesting way of doing it.
We've had a few people ask this question. Just a quick question. Yeah. I think James Glue just asked it. Jim Glue. What's the power up time on it? How long
Should we show you?
Yeah, please.
Right. Okay. So we just power off.
Are we ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1. About 20, 21, 22 seconds.
Let's be just 20. Yeah, there you go. 20 seconds. It's not awful.
Comparable to the M8.
Yeah,
About the same as the Hydra.
yeah, it's not awful at all. So,
Does it remember where you last were, or does it go back to a default setting?
I believe it goes back to a default, but I think you can change that.
Okay.
I believe you can change that. Okay. Right, so hopefully that's answered some questions there. Right, we were doing connections at the back, so let me just, I'm doing this like Braille. Okay, so next along we have a headphone socket, stereo headphone socket, 6.4mm jack. Then we have two balanced TRS audio outputs, again 6.4mm. And then to the left of that is a clickable, I don't know what the right term is. It's basically a rotary knob, but if you push it in, it locks into the synth, and then you push it again, it pops out. And it's the audio input gain for two combo balanced audio inputs. So you can actually connect the audio outputs of another instrument into this and process it through the onboard effects of the AstroLab. What might be more interesting to our audience is the fact that you can connect a microphone to it and call up a vocoder V patch within Analog Lab Pro and use this as a vocoder. So you can have a microphone connected direct into this and vocode away. So that's a really cool feature.
Can you sample with it?
So there is this is the bit that was a little bit confusing to me when I got this. They kept mentioning the sampler function, and I didn't find it straight away, but it is there, and it's basically sampling, I believe, don't quote me on this, it's sampling in SFZ format, or SFZ format if you're in the UK.
Sound font.
So yeah, this is basically a version of the sound font. And there is a number of reasons for that. It provides great flexibility, so you can sample your own stuff in there, but it also gets around certain other limitations that we'll cover. So yeah, you've got audio inputs which have their own gain control there. Then you see that little silver connection there, so you've got a sustain pedal, expression pedal, and then two other assignable pedal sockets. Then you've got two MIDI in, MIDI out ports, and I believe that is it. Yep, that's it. So
no USB audio out. Just
no, this is not. This is one thing I thought it might have, but it didn't when it arrived. It's not an audio interface. That would have been kind of nice, but also kind of pointless in a way for, again, as I'm saying, a stage keyboard.
A stage keyboard, yeah.
And one of the real bonuses of this keyboard is that you don't have to have a laptop plus audio interface to use all of that.
To use all the Arturia plugin stuff.
It's all in the box. That's the whole point. Everything's in the box. So kind of an audio interface would be a little odd. But yeah, it doesn't. It's not an audio interface. The USB connections. One is simply a data connection to the computer. The other one is a port where you can connect another MIDI controller and/or storage device, such as an SSD drive.
So we've yet to cover the keyboard. Can I make an observation?
You can.
So it's a very light coloured thing, and when I first saw it, I thought that's a bit sparse. But the more I look at it, and the more I think about that in the dark as a player, with that light background, you're going to see everything you need to see. You're going to be able to find everything, navigate around it, and get to stuff. It's going to be stupid simple to find things on there, even when it's really, really dark. This has been really well thought through.
Yeah, well,
it really has.
Frederick said in the keynote that occurred at 5 o'clock this evening that he first wrote his first kind of document about this 10 years ago. So they've been kind of working towards this for the last decade, and so you would have thought that those things would have been considered. Absolutely. Steve in the chat says, how heavy is it? 10 kilos is how heavy it is. It's not stupidly heavy, but it certainly feels there is substance there. So yeah, it's not a particularly light thing, but it's equally not a gargantuan thing. And that's probably kept down by the fact that this keyboard is a semi-weighted synth action keyboard rather than a traditional hammer action keyboard. And the one thing you can't see is that the keys are all again, I don't know what the technical term is, but full-faced is what I'm going to say. So they're like a piano keyboard. They're full-faced. It's not like a synth action where you can put your fingers underneath. Again, maybe I don't know why that was a design decision, whether it's because stage keyboards, might be susceptible to, coming out. So yeah, it's a semi-weighted synth action keyboard, and the black notes have a slight texture to them. It's not grained. It's just they're slightly more matte finish than the smooth white ones. Again, don't know if that's a conscious thing to do. Anyway, but they're felted at the back. So the big felt strip, and that felt strip, instead of being kind of traditional red, is beige to go with the end cheeks, which I'm not entirely sure if they're wood or not. And I don't know how I would go about testing them other than to gouge them. But they feel like them. Sorry? Set fire to them. Yeah. Let's see if they burn or melt.
Yeah.
But they add a nice touch, and they kind of come round to about here as well, so you can see them. It's a very stylish thing. So yeah, it's.
Well, I'm getting from the features you're showing me here. I'm getting the feeling, or am I hoping? I don't. It's 50-50, feeling and hoping that actually there's going to be a deluxe version of this little baby coming up at some point. That's 76 or whatever.
Yeah, that ties into what Andrew Brooks has. Yeah,
and that comes in with all the bits that it doesn't appear to have.
Yeah, no, I'm not aware of any other versions of this, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if they did a fully weighted one with a hammer action keyboard and maybe
Donkey
same as
scrotum,
76
USB audio way out and blah 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 blahs and all the rest of the bits. Yeah,
apparently these are supposed to be Bakelite, I'm told. Just seen in the chat. I wouldn't know what the litmus test is for Bakelite.
Don't light it.
It certainly doesn't look like the old telephones what we used to have back in the day, which were made out of Bakelite, and the radios.
Morning, Paddington 174.
Yes. So there we go. There is some people have mentioned. I again noticed on the live stream this kind of conspicuous empty space, and I don't quite know why nothing was put there. Maybe it's too. Well, no, you don't need it.
Except it's on the left.
And it's too small for a laptop. Again, which you wouldn't need. But you could put your phone there.
Could you put a the one of the other control surfaces? Thank you, from Arturia.
Oh, you could, you could put your 1010 black box there. Look, it's not bad for those little things. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Song list.
You could write a shopping list there.
Set list. There you go. Get a piece of gaffer tape and stick that on there. A small iPad. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or as Prometheus said, for your McDonald's.
Or coffee.
Yeah. Other fast foods are available.
Or daiquiri.
Or a daiquiri. Oh.
Anyway. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it as far as the whole thing is concerned. The structure, the construction.
You haven't mentioned for the keyboard whether or not it's got aftertouch, poly, MP, or any of that stuff.
I did not. Right. So as I said, it's a semi-weighted action with channel aftertouch, not poly aftertouch. There is no poly aftertouch in here. It's just channel aftertouch. Again, Not entirely sure if that's a conscious decision for it being a stage keyboard, but no, there's no. It's just standard, full-size keys, velocity sensitive with adjustable velocity curves, and channel aftertouch with adjustable settings on the channel aftertouch. Now I'm told, again, this was something that came through very last minute today before we went on air. So I was speaking with one of Arturia's artist relations people, and they said that whilst it doesn't have poly aftertouch in there, if you were to connect a poly aftertouch keyboard, a la, Hydrasynth or similar, the V Collection instruments that are within Analog Lab that are designed to respond to poly aftertouch will respond to, so it will pass it through. But it doesn't have it natively.
Onto the hardware here, rather than connecting through to, just it responds to...
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So if you have the CS80V, which I do believe obviously responds to poly aftertouch, I haven't tested this out because I got this message about 20 past 7. So I will try and connect the Hydrasynth up to this, and then see if it does respond, or certainly perform, the poly aftertouch patches within the instrument. Okay, so there you go. So I think that covers the physicality of the thing, pretty much.
And I suppose from a health and safety point of view, at 10 kilograms, it's heavy enough that you'd really have to think twice about using it to beat small endangered mammals. So you have to take your hat off to them for that. They've considered that very carefully.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can address a few questions before we move on. Steve has given us £5. Thank you very much indeed. You can't put it off forever. You're going to have to play it for us eventually. Yeah, I know. But thank you for your donation. You can keep paying and I won't play. That's how we work here. Half God, half God, half beast is getting a little bit antsy here. Software, does it come with? But here's V Collection include. Software included. Price, software included. Okay, let's put him at ease. So the price of the unit, which we mentioned earlier, is a recommended retail price of €1,599, but I'm seeing its street price here in the UK for about $1,350.
Wow!
It comes with Arturia Analog Lab Pro software. Okay, so you've got all of the keyboard itself comes with over 1,300 sounds already stored inside, and it is stored on internal storage, of which there is 22.8 gigabytes built in. So 22.8 gig. So that means that some of those quite sample heavy augmented things will, you can keep a lot of those in here without taking up too much space. So 22.8 gig of storage.
And if you've already got an Arturia bundle,
yes,
maybe you've got Pigments or whatever, and you've already paid for that, can you download that into this if you already own it on a laptop or whatever?
Not Pigments itself, no. So remember, this is Analog Lab V in a box. And that's the software, the companion software that you get with it. Analog Lab V contains Pigments patches. It doesn't contain the entirety of Pigments. For that, you would have to buy the Pigments plugin. And if you wanted to edit those sounds at a very detailed level, which you do in Pigments, you would have to buy Pigments or V Collection, which it is part of.
But I think what I'm saying is, if you've already got Pigments, for instance, and you make something on your lap here, you're using it in your DAW, and you want to down it to this so that you've got it for live, you can actually transfer it across. Yes.
Yes. So you can create any sound that you like in any of the V Collection instruments, store it as a patch within Analog Lab, and then zip it right down to here. If you want to edit that patch later on, you can open that patch in Analog Lab and then click on the edit button, and it opens up the plugin that you have. Obviously, you've got to own that plugin, and you can then edit it at your heart's content. So, answer the question?
I think it does.
Yeah. Apparently, we haven't appeased him. Do you have to pay for V Collection, or does it come with it? No. V Collection is a collection of individual plugins. Analog Lab comes with V Collection, but also is also a standalone product, and that's what this comes with. So no, it doesn't come with V Collection. If you want the individual plugins, you either buy them individually or you buy them as V Collection. What you get with this is Analog Lab, and Analog Lab contains all of the engines of all of the V Collection synths and can play all of the patches, or pretty much all of the patches from the V Collection synths in here, but only the patches that come with Analog Lab. If you have the V Collection synthesizers, you can add to those and you can edit those. Okay, so there's a distinction between Analog Lab and V Collection. This centers itself around Analog Lab. Right, hopefully that's...
It is a gigging product, isn't it?
It's a gigging product,
That's
absolutely.
what it's for. I get it completely. Actually, whilst we're here, so Tanuki D, it's an odd product. I guess it's for gigging musos, like if you can't afford a montage. Well, I've got a montage, and I do gig from time to time. This is the kind of thing I'd want to take out with me.
This weighs about a quarter of that.
I've been thinking about this. I might have to get, the M1 and the plug-in for the montage to do live gigs, because this is just so heavy. But this is a good thing. I quite like this. I have to say. So
let's answer some more of these questions here so we don't build up a stack of things. Let's have a quick look here. Any MIDI 2.0? To the best of my knowledge, no. Although that, I guess, could be a firmware upgrade. But
well, that's why it hasn't got poly aftertouch.
Yeah, there's no MPE, and there's no MIDI 2.0. So as far as I'm aware, the answer to that is no. Are they going? Is there going to be a pro version that maybe has faders in that blank area? Oh, could be.
Like to think so.
Would be nice, yeah. But I know nothing in that regard.
Well, you test the water first, don't you?
Well, absolutely. Look, I'll tell you one thing. When you open up Analog Lab and you connect this, it shows up in the left-hand column as AstroLab 61. And if you're not going to be making other versions, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So to me, that kind of hints at the possibility that there could be bigger things going on.
I think when my Carvera gets here, I might start a service doing these in different colours.
Oh. Yeah, there you go. Steve says load time between patches will be interesting to see. That's very good. I would say that. So again, let me bring this up. Unfortunately, if I could zoom in. It's difficult. So when I turn the knob, you'll see that the lights kind of change. And did you notice that the instrument pops into place there?
Uh-huh.
And then this one's a sample-based. See, that took a little longer because that's sample-based. But most of the virtual instrument plugins, when you turn the knob and select the next sound, the instrument that it's using to create that sound, in this case it's the Minimoog, when you turn it to the next one, you'll see the instrument pop and get a little larger in the screen. That means the sound is loaded. So there you go. That took a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
That one's almost instant. So they're the load times, and they're pretty damn quick.
Can you play and do some of that, Robbie?
See, this one's taking a little longer because it's sample based. So, yeah, pretty quick when you're flicking between the virtual instruments, but when samples get involved, naturally there's a few more seconds delay.
But I noticed whilst you were playing and changing patches, it didn't just cut off whilst it waited for the new thing.
Exactly.
It carried on until the new thing. That's again
exactly.
Live feature. That's exactly what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, multi-threading is always good.
Yeah. Can you run 2 instances of pigments in parallel? You can have 2 pigment sounds one in part 1 and one in part 2, and you can layer them. The only restriction being the amount of polyphony, and I'm going to come on to that. Don't let me forget polyphony once I've gone through these questions.
Okay.
So you can layer 2 pigment sounds or split 2 pigment sounds. You can do that. You're not actually loading an instance of pigments per se in here. You're loading the patches that will perform through the engine. So hopefully that answers that question. Another one from Nick. Always good to have Nick's input here. Decades of experience here with Yamaha and so on and so forth. Polycount running 2 instances of pigments. I will come to that. And you're quite right to be picking pigments as it's the most DSP intensive. So we will come to that. In fact, I'm not going to unstar that comment because I'm going to make sure that stays. Andy says, Process Network, are the macro knobs customizable within Analog Lab? No. So they have 8 features each. Brightness, timbre, time and movement, and then they double up as volume, bass, mid and treble for the equalizer, and that's that. So you would customize your sound within the instrument in software and then send that down, but no, these are just the basics. So the 4 tonal controls and then the 4 effects controls, and that's, and when so if I bring up let's get rid of that. So this is Analog Lab, and as you can see, Analog Lab has all of these presets, and you can flick through those using the keyboard or the screen, or you can just drop down from there, or you can go to the full-on library page just there, and you can select sounds from there. And yeah, I think that's about all you can do. So
can you run a playlist, because you've got playlists here in AstroLab? Can you run the playlist in AstroLab itself rather than just in the software on screen?
Yeah. So what a playlist is a collection of sounds. So you can organize, have a collection of sounds for song A, a collection of sounds for song B, or you might just want to have a collection of sounds for your entire set, and you collate them as a playlist and store them as such, and then you can send that playlist to AstroLab, and it stores the playlist within the synth. It'll bring down all the patches that are in that playlist, so they're all selectable from the hardware without having to connect to a laptop or your mobile device. Those playlists can also exist in your account within the Analog Connect and the AstroLab Connect app on your mobile device. They can exist there as well, and you can exchange data between those two as well as the Analog Lab software.
That's cool. For live, that's really cool.
Yeah. So this is, I think you might have heard this. These are some AstroLab playlists. So you've got this thing called Unplugged Song, and there's all of these patches there. There's a live song playlist. There's an urban song playlist. So this is what a playlist looks like, and you create them, and then you just throw in all of the patches that you want, and then when you send that playlist to AstroLab, AstroLab says, all right, I'll have all of those sounds, store them in the storage. And again, you might have seen here just at the top, this is my disk usage. So this relates to the disk storage, and I'm guessing it's an SSD or similar. You got 22.59 gigabytes of space. 7 at the moment is currently used, so I'm not even halfway there yet. And just also to show you that if I'm on this particular patch here, which is called With Grace, if I click the Edit Preset button, if I click it on the actual screen, I can edit the preset within Analog Lab, so that's I can change the effects and things here, but also I can go back, and if I go to let's see, so I've got a patch here, I can edit the presets, and that will also, I can also bring up the instance of the plugin. And I can't remember where I do that. See,
you must have had this for minutes. You must have had this for minutes, and you're not entirely familiar with it. Honestly,
not entirely familiar. Oh, there you go. That's there you go. I found it. There you go. You open it there. So then that opens the synth within Analog Lab, and then for example, this. So I want to change the filter, and then I can save that patch either as a new patch or as the patch that it was built in as there.
And then that you can just do you have to transfer it? Do you have to physically transfer it, or does it automatically sync?
No, you do a sync, although most of the time those... So let's have a look here. Yeah, because everything you're hearing, by the way, I just want to make this very clear. Everything you're hearing is the keyboard. It's not the plugin.
Oh, right.
So when the plugin's connected, you're not hearing the plugin. The plugin then just basically becomes an editor and a librarian. So everything you're hearing is coming directly from this. And
that's very clever.
That's made it clear. I'm just trying to make sure we haven't missed any questions. Thank you, Jim. Yes, it is. I was having a slight synclavier moment there. You have to bear in mind that today, I'm not making excuses. Today has been really hectic with this coming up and making sure reviews are written, and that I spent half a day trying to get cameras in position because we don't normally do this thing, but we're learning. But anyway, thank you for your time and your patience, and do forgive me a couple of grey moments, again, because I am getting on a bit in age. Getting on a bit in age, as Terry would say. Shut up. I'm just want to make sure that we haven't, guys. I don't know if you're able to, but just if you can go through the live chat, and if we have,
I'm just picking out now. Here we go.
If there's any there, just throw them in. So. How's the latency? Does it feel like you're playing a soft synth, or is it as immediate as a hardware keyboard? It is as immediate as a hardware keyboard. If you think that, I don't know, the Mask 1, the Essence FM, the AM1X, they're all essentially at a very simple level. They're all software synthesizers. So the latency is... It's bang on. It's perfect. There is no noticeable latency. Whether there is, if somebody did a convoluted test, but no, there is no latency whatsoever. When will it be available in black? Good question. They will, won't they? Because that's what Arturia do. Knob question. Is the knob the same diameter as a rotor exhaust? I don't know. Andrew, what do you think?
Well, actually, I know the diameter of a rotor exhaust.
Go on then.
It's 2.2 inches. So
yeah, I would say it is.
Yeah, I'd say roughly. Depends.
I haven't got a tape measure here, but because I'm not that.
If it's the V8
shallow,
the V8 Discovery, definitely.
I'm surprised you know.
But if you're going to go old school, probably not actually. Because they used to use the exhaust.
No wonder I'm getting through so many songs.
Rover 3.5s. So,
But let's just focus on the knob. Okay, screen encoder. We'll call it the screen encoder. It's a lovely design. Some people said, "Oh, it's a tiny little screen," but trust me, I'm sat here. My eyes are about 1.5 feet away from it, and I haven't even got my glasses on, and I have got seriously bad eyes, and I can read that. And it's a really smooth function, and it also let me see if I can get the microphone down here. Okay, can you hear that?
Yes.
So it's not haptic, so when you turn it you don't feel there is a very faint feel of it, but it definitely makes a clicking noise. It's an electronically generated clicking noise. As you turn, every step will give you this little very inoffensive click, and you can turn that off if you don't like it. And then it functions also as a button, and it doesn't matter where you press it, it works. So that's really good. And as you can see, it's just very smooth. It's very well designed. It works really, really nicely.
Are we talking about the knob now?
We're talking about the knob,
right,
the smooth action of the knob.
So what does it sound like when you drop?
What is it? yeah, when you ow is probably well, that's the sound I would make.
Followed by oh my god!
Trust me, it is. When it turned up, it's quite heavy. It was about a 15 kilo package. This is about 10 kilos of that. And then so you've got the power supply.
Yeah, Jim's come up with a good question there.
Go on,
would it stand up to, in general use, especially we're talking stage, how strong is it? Could it take a whack to the side without going halfway across the sage?
If this is Bakelite, then
the knob itself.
Oh, the knob, sorry. We're still focusing on the knob. I'm not going to try and find out. It feels firm and solid. There's a tiny little bit of give if you just hold the knob and wiggle it a bit. Jeez, it's just unavoidable,
so
isn't it?
It could stand like a backhander from a disgruntled punter,
I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the same for most of these. All of these instruments that now have large knobs somewhere, like the montages, which I haven't.
Yeah,
I don't know,
and that's got a super knob.
It's got a super knob. That's smaller.
Just
than
boasting,
that, and
really.
It's standing slightly prouder.
Yeah.
But yeah, if someone's going to hit it with a blooming hammer, then yes, it's going to get damaged. But I can't.
But then any synthesizer is going to get damage of that sort of thing.
Yeah, but that's fairly flat, to the thing, and it doesn't.
Shouldn't we call this Whipple's Tickle, and just for balance?
Whipple's Tickle?
Mm.
We can. Whipple's Tickle.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I'm just.
You asked to be reminded. About
Yes,
this.
polyphony. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, polyphony.
Polyphony. Right. So let's get it out of the way. So, polyphony varies depending on the sounds that you're using. Okay.
How many fingers you have.
And whether you play with your dick or not. So the polyphony varies. And again, before I tell you what the polyphony counts are, bear in mind this is a stage keyboard. As I said at the top of the show, always preface everything with this is a stage keyboard. So pianos, E-pianos and organs all have 48-note polyphony. Okay, so what?
All right, can I just
go on then? Is the knob harder to read in cold conditions? Thank you, Simon. Always trust Simon.
That spoke to me. Thank you.
Hope Germany's nice, Simon. Stay there.
Hope it's not cold.
Hope it's not cold. Yeah. Right. So pianos, E-pianos, organs all have 48-note polyphony, which I think on a 61-note keyboard is probably good enough. Certainly for live use. Every synthesizer, bar the monophonic ones, obviously are polyphonic, and they are 8-note polyphonic. So there is a limitation there with the polyphonic virtual synthesizers, and naturally the monophonic ones are monophonic. So that would be things like the Synth and the Buchla, I think, as well. So and I'm told by Arturia that this was simply to ease the pressure on the CPU within the unit. So I've heard some people saying, it's a bit stingy on the synths. Again, I have to sort of say, how many big fat chords are you going to be playing live?
And the OBX is 8 voice. There's plenty of precedence for an 8-voice synth. It's fine.
Yeah. If you split or layer the sounds, each instrument retains its polyphony count. I don't believe, although and as Nick mentioned, things like pigments, there are, I haven't got a list of them, but there are a small handful of patches, not instruments, but patches that they've had to dial back some of the effects and other bits and bobs to keep the polyphony manageable.
At an acceptable level.
At an acceptable level across the thing. And I'm told that of the thousands of sounds that you have in there, we are literally talking a relative handful. There's not very many. Everything that I've played, I've not been able to not get the full polyphony that Arturia say I can get. So again, this could be something that could be addressed in coding, in a firmware update. They may be able to make the system more efficient and therefore squeeze a bit more polyphony out that way, but they've throttled certain aspects to manageable and usable levels. And thank you very much, Manny.
Indeed, Manny.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
And so preface everything with, this is a stage live keyboard. However, I keep saying that, it's also very good in the studio as well. And I'll come on to some of the reasons why that is a little bit later on. But
and just quickly, James Dyson, I think a couple of other people have asked whether or not you can create set lists, etc., for Studio Live, whatever. We have covered that.
Yeah.
So you have to pay us a fine now, otherwise the Penguin of Death will come and see you. But the answer is yes, you can.
Yeah, and that's all done, as you can see over here. You've got this thing called playlists. That's all they are. A playlist is a collection of presets that you put together with a title, so you can do it however you want. You can do a playlist per song or a playlist per gig or whatever. And that's where it can also come in quite handy for studio sessions, because you might be at home and you might need to go off and do a session somewhere else. You can mess around at home with the computer, send everything over, and then just take the keyboard. You haven't got to worry. You just plug it in and go. It's there, and you just call up the playlist. Let's just quickly go through. I want to mention Andy. Thanks to spending the time setting this all up, and also encouraging to play us out at the end of this video. I'll play something, but it won't be nice. But thank you very much for your donation.
Okay.
Thank you, Conrad Gibbons, for €5.55. That was generous. Thank you very much indeed. Is it 61? We mentioned before, yes, at the moment only 61, but given that it shows up in the software, just there, it says AstroLab 61. Why would you define that?
Yeah.
If there wasn't anything to define.
Here's the thing. Yesterday, I mean, they could have released this news and everything yesterday, but then it would have been eclipsed.
And he says, the macro knobs? We've done that one. Can the looper derive data from, say, the arpeggios?
On the Juno Jupiter models? That's an interesting question.
That's something I'm going to try. So let's go into, what do you say, Jupiter? Let's find the Jupiter.
Actually, an additional question to that is, yes.
Okay.
So would the Jupiter and Juno, which have their own arpeggiators, would that be separate to the arpeggiators that's already on board?
No, because if you look, I've just selected an arpeggiated patch, and the ARP light is already on. So it's...
Oh, right. So it's using...
Yeah. So let me just select that patch. So let's do record. I didn't start until a little bit late into that loop.
Till bar 3.
Now, whether I can export that as a MIDI file, I don't know. I haven't tried that yet, but we can answer some of these questions at a later date.
You said earlier,
that's an interesting one.
You said earlier that anything which you record as MIDI loops, you can export as .mid files.
But will it export the arpeggiated notes within that MIDI file? Is what I'm driving at there.
Yeah. Can you then move it into the onboard arpeggio? That's really interesting.
We'll give that a try.
Great question, Nick.
Yeah.
Great question.
James Dyson, does this support the Micro Freak VST? You mean the Mini Freak VST, I believe. Mini Freak is not currently part of V Collection, and therefore it's not part of Analog Lab, but Arturia assure me that from V Collection 10 onwards, so come V Collection 11, where I imagine the Mini Freak will probably be included in that, then yes, it probably will. If it's included in V Collection, it will then be included in Analog Lab and therefore be available within this. That's my understanding, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, so good question though. How do the keys feel? Like an M1 DX7 or lower quality, like a B-word synth? They're kind of, I wouldn't, yeah, I'd say they're up there. This isn't a Fatar keybed or anything, but it has a nice feel to it. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. It's not obviously weighted. It doesn't sort of have that, I don't know what the word is you describe, the DX7 stroke M1 or that whole, I can't remember the code name for that keybed, but it had some sort of like kind of bite to it, like pasta has a bite, you know. It kind of has that something to it.
Al dente
Kind of, yeah. It's nice. It's all I can say. I'm not a professional keyboard player, as you can probably tell. So I couldn't.
What?
Couldn't say. Steve Elbers, is the knob the same? No, we've had that one as well. We're not clearing these out very quickly.
Yeah.
It might be bigger now.
Cresshead says, interesting that they called it the Analog Lab, seeing as there's. Yeah, interesting point. This is true. The thing is, Analog Lab existed before they started doing digital emulations, and I suppose, yeah. Does it feel like the Polybrute? No, it feels a little nicer, if I'm honest. Because the Polybrute's keyboard, whilst nice and functional, maybe isn't quite the sort of premium level keyboard you would expect with a premium synth. I would say this is a nicer feeling keybed than the Polybrute, but that's not saying that the Polybrute is terrible. It's just saying it's different. Right. What should we do next? Let's do
dance.
Let's do a dance. Let's do this. So if I put this up, and then if I do that, how do I change
your shirt?
Your outlook?
Let's
philosophy.
Yeah.
Pants. Live.
That's a little better. Maybe no. Actually, no. That's not. Let's do it that way. I just want to show.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah. Analog Lab. Have I tried audio in yet? Says Kosh Dukai. No. In all honesty, I haven't. Sorry.
Remiss.
Maybe that's something I can plug in for Friday's show. Although Friday's show is going to be very busy. More on that later.
Get a microphone, do it now.
I haven't got a... no.
All right, plug your headphones in and shout into them. It works.
Yeah, I know, yeah. That's how I used to record when I was a kid.
Yeah, I know. Same here.
We all did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Tin can, string, that was me.
I'm not buying a bloody microphone now. Go back in the garden.
If we have time at the end and we haven't lost the will to live, then I might try and dig out. I've got an old Philips microphone that's just with a TRS on the end.
You can always plug another synth into it.
Again, it's just finding cables. I'm not prepared for it, and it'll just be dead air. Okay, so
can I just apologise for this? I mean, obviously, this is clearly this makes the regen look positively slick. I mean, honestly, Robbie, what were you think? All right, fair enough.
Yeah. So let's cover Analog Lab, because there might be some people here that haven't used Analog Lab, and there is a free version of Analog Lab which I don't think has any bearing on this whatsoever. But there is a free version if you want to sort of try it out. But this is Analog Lab Pro, which comes with the synthesizer. It also comes with the V collection, and it's a really very, very simple thing to navigate and get around. So you can browse for sounds in lots of different ways. You can browse by type, and these types are the equivalent of what you have the buttons on the keyboard. You can browse for sounds by instrument as well. So everything from the Acid through the ARP, the B3, the CS80, the Junos, etc., etc. And there's the multis preset function as well, and then they're all selectable. So if you want synclavier sounds, just choose synclavier.
whilst you're doing that, can I
Yes.
just? Here's one from Manny. It's got a USB 8. Does it? Because it supports a device, an external USB device, up to 5 watts. Does WIDI?
So I haven't tried WIDI. I haven't tried MIDI through the USB. I'm not entirely sure it does it through that. It might do, actually. It will certainly power the device, but I don't know whether it will send data. That's something we need to try, maybe. But it raises a very, very good point. This actually has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. Yes, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
Well,
and there's a really good reason for that. So, first of all, you can completely connect to this via Wi-Fi from your computer. So as long as they're on the same network. So say you're here in your studio at home and you've got a wireless LAN in your home. As long as your computer is connected to the same network as your AstroLab, they'll talk to each other without the use of a USB cable.
Well,
okay, which is handy. Where that's even more handy is if you are out at a gig and say, for example, you wanted to connect a laptop to this, or you wanted to connect your mobile device to this. You don't need to hook everything up to a Wi-Fi connection within the building, because that's going to be pretty pants. This acts as a Wi-Fi hotspot. So it generates its own little Wi-Fi hotspot, and you can point your device at this and connect those together over Wi-Fi, and it's just your machine and the AstroLab. So it's a standalone connection with no interference from anyone else. So that's cool. There's also Bluetooth. So Bluetooth will work with the Connect app as well. So you connect your mobile phone. Well, as soon as you start, once you've paired them all up, this all happens instantly in the background. You just open up the app and it connects with the device. You can also send Bluetooth audio, I believe, to this. Let me just go to the home page. We'll go to the settings, which is there. So Bluetooth.
can you zoom on that or go full screen?
Unfortunately, no. I can go full screen. I can't zoom in, but that doesn't really make much difference. So you can have Bluetooth on or off, and you can pair devices. So, for example, I can pair my mobile device to this, and I can send Bluetooth audio. It goes into this, and I can monitor it through the keyboard or through the through the outputs or the headphones, and so I can play along with my favourite tracks should I wish. Let's just have a look at the USB drive socket here. So that's just importing data. Just trying to see. It's got its own internal tempo, but you can also sync the tempo as you normally would any synthesizer. MIDI in, keyboard MIDI out. It doesn't mention anything about MIDI over USB. That's just your keyboard settings, pedal settings, and utilities. Just as far as I'm aware, it doesn't. I'm sure I read somewhere that it actually can connect to a Bluetooth speaker, so it'd probably just do Bluetooth audio in and out. I saw that.
Yeah, I hope not with that delay that you always get with Bluetooth.
Yeah, that does. That's the only problem, is it? Does it support Wi-Fi audio? No, I don't believe it does.
Why would you want it to?
Don't know. I suppose if it's got its Wi-Fi, it's a possibility. I
always get dropouts with it.
I'm interested here. Let me see.
All right, look, while you're doing that, I'm going to turn off this memory mode because this fan's driving me nuts.
Kosh Takai has said, have you tried USB thumb drives or external USB MIDI controllers? That's pretty much what we're doing right now. So
let me just turn on my... Okay, so we've got a connection.
And you say you can't play keyboards.
Let me just turn that off because that might be interfering.
Just proving it.
Let's just go into... USB. Do you know what? I don't think it does. No. So certainly via USB, it won't work with MIDI. But of course, you can connect a MIDI master or a MIDI jack to the regular MIDI ports, and that will work.
And that will connect, yeah.
Yeah. But not through the USB.
So, have you found any sounds that you particularly love? Have you got any favourite sounds? Anything like? Because we've not heard any yet.
No, okay, yeah.
It's whatever's in Analog Labs.
Exactly, and that's a pretty well established thing. So, Analog Lab Pro here, as I said, you can browse via all these different things, and you've got sound banks that you can buy. Or get there's a whole bunch of free stuff, and you can buy extra ones, and you can do that, as you can see here, through the app itself. So you can click on Liquid Explorations. The preset pack will download, and you can sample. When I say sample, you can listen to a sample of that patch, and you can play those directly. And by the way, again, the audio is coming from the keyboard. No audio is coming from the app. So you can sample or test, should I say, probably the better term given our world. Any of the sounds from these banks, and there are loads of banks, and there's a whole bunch of stuff for different styles of music. There are banks of sounds for different types of artists. So there's tribute banks. There's an Eno tribute bank there, and in fact, they've taken some of the sounds from those tribute banks and put them into Analog Lab Pro as presets. So you don't have to buy them. They're just sample. Just it's kind of like a selection, highlights, if you will.
So here's a question for you, Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a new keyboard or a new product, you sit down in front of it and you start playing, and generally you'll start just getting lost in it because you find one or two of those sounds and you just go, oh yeah, and you're off, right? That's the goal that's what you look for when you do these things. Have you had time to find any sounds that you wouldn't otherwise have found? Because I know you've got them all in the software within your Mac, but because this is hardware, it's a different experience. Have you found any of those golden sounds yet that you wouldn't otherwise have played with? Or have you not had time?
It's a case of not having had a huge amount of time to do that, because I've had to look at other things that I don't know about. And as you say, I've had V Collection now for a very long time. So I know what's in there, I know what's good, and I have to admit that when I first started going through the stuff, I was just calling up the instruments I know, where sounds exist that I really like, and then just playing those. But it was nice to be able to sort of jump to those sounds as quickly as I could, using AstroLab as a starting point. It was much easier and more rewarding to find those sounds and play with them. I honestly, do you know, I used to know the chords to Africa, and I don't know. Where's Justin when you need him, eh?
We played them here on the GS1.
On the GS1, yeah.
And I can't remember.
Ian, no, you don't need to connect it to a computer. It's all in the hardware.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the keyboard. Yeah.
As you'd know, if you move to Stroud, you could move to Stroud, Ian. Move to Stroud.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah. For any latecomers, AstroLab is basically Analog Lab in a keyboard. Yep. You don't need to have Analog Lab running anywhere or connected anywhere. It's just when you have the keyboard, Analog Lab becomes an extension of that in terms of being an editor and a librarian, and But and you might as well mention this now, that you can, when you start running AstroLab as a plugin in your audio workstation, and you're using AstroLab as an instrument, the keyboard as an instrument, you can start doing some very cool things, in as much as you can record what you're playing and obviously change the sound either within the DAW, or you can change it within AstroLab. You can do direct monitoring of the sound through this anyway, so you don't have to worry about going through sound cards or anything. And you can start stacking and layering things within AstroLab and have multiple instances of AstroLab. And every time you select the track with AstroLab on it, your keyboard changes all of its settings to match that patch. And then when you're playing it, you can hear everything that's coming out of the keyboard with zero latency and all that kind of stuff. So you can start to mix and match things around. So in the studio, whilst this is primarily a stage keyboard, in the studio it becomes a really useful kind of tool. So there's that. So yeah, as I was saying, sounds. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can get.
There is one. So here's a question which I think is relevant. ADSR, especially good to tweak release on the fly and or attack. Yeah, I think the thing here is because it's got the USB, it will support up to 5 watts. You could have a controller. Would I be right in thinking that you could then access, Robbie, using the mobile app, or your mobile phone or whatever it is you've got it on? Could you then access things like the attack times, release times, get for more granular control of that patch using an iPad or whatever?
So, yes and no. The brightness and the tab. So let me just pick. So things like brightness and timbre. Let me just bring up the. So this is what I'm seeing in AstroLab. So you see, so the brightness is just messing around with the filter cutoff. The timbre is doing that kind of resonance thing.
I wonder if time is.
But
it's doing something.
Yeah. If you look in the middle here at the envelope generator, just there. So that's decay. Which one was it? Oh, that's. That's decay time, I think.
So can you assign which of those controls it works?
That's EG time. So the envelope stays the same.
Yeah.
Elongated.
So no, basically, this is the thing with AstroLab Pro, is that whilst you can tweak the individual sounds within the patch, the controls that you have are limited to what you see. It's brightness, timbre, time, and movement, and then the effects. And the only ones I believe.
So I'm just I'm wondering is, Robbie, to get this to change anything else, you'd have to open up the Arturia instance of the MS-20, right?
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you've got access to everything. At that point, can you assign any of the knobs, like either attack or decay or sustain, etc.? Can you assign any of those to time? And then when you resave the patch, it will be affecting that particular part of the EG.
I don't think you can.
Well, is that just telling you what the time is there? It's not allowing you to change, like the attack time, for instance.
No, that seems to be hardwired to the decay time within the envelope generator. So I think it's
what they used to call hold on an MS-20.
Yeah. Again, what you've got to appreciate is that AstroLab is not the full-on synth. Because then
no. I think the question I was asking, I'll try phrasing it differently, is if you were from AstroLab then to open up the actual synth, the MS-20. Which is
what I've done here.
Okay, so if you change the attack time on screen, use your mouse to change the attack time, for instance. Just out of interest, now touch time on the. What does it affect?
No,
Does
it doesn't.
No,
Doesn't
it's
do
only
anything.
that.
Yeah.
So you can't put.
No.
You can't assign which it does.
No.
That's a shame.
What you can do, though, and I know this maybe again slightly defeats the object, but you can plug in, say for example, where is it? 1 second. Watch me knock over half a dozen keyboards as I come back in.
I suppose in a way it wouldn't, because if you're setting up your sounds for your set and then you save that patch to your keyboard and then take your keyboard to the venue.
But I understand. Yeah, I get that. But sometimes you just want to tweak the the attack, the release. You just want to maybe just the ADSR would be a good thing. I just wonder if they couldn't put that in as an addition at some point, just with a firmware release. Yes, let's have a look.
All right, this is a MiniLab 3. It's the latest version of their small controller. I'm just going to put that in the other way. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to plug this in to the USB
Into
port.
the USB.
And by the way, it's not $2,000, as some people are saying. It's not a $2,000 keyboard. Or I don't know actually I don't know what it is in US, but €1,600 is not $2,000 unless that exchange rate has gone through the wall. It wouldn't surprise me. And if
It's $1 million.
it's $1 million, right?
You're supposed to do it like that, aren't you?
Okay.
$1
$1 million. Ah.
So my this is now connected through here. It's powered by this, and I'm playing that MS-20 patch here. And if I tweak, so I can tweak those there, and that's that, and then those will go there. But yeah, so I've got faders on here, as you can see.
Oh, you've got a release time there.
Yeah. And so I can assign, I'm sure I can assign those faders on here. To this controller. Let me just try.
We might be getting an answer here, folks. This is good. Because if you can do that, then suddenly you've got control over all of those other bits. That would be very cool.
I'll have to figure out how you can do that, but yeah, I'm sure through a separate controller you might be able to do that. I guess the thing you have to bear in mind is that, excuse me, I'm just going to plug that. The thing you have to bear in mind is, again, this is a stage keyboard. It's not a full-on synthesizer. And with that in mind, I know some people can say, oh, well, you can do that on other things. But at this price, I don't know. Analog Lab has always been a greatest hits. So it's all the patches, but basically we're going to simplify things down for performance. That's always been what it's about. And this is just that in hardware. So I don't know. The answer is I don't really know why.
But here's the thing. We know that this is the kind of thing it wouldn't be that hard to do as a firmware update. So this is just released. If there are things like ADSR that you need to be able to do, or assignable MIDI, there'll be ways of doing that. Because this is, Nick Howes has got a really good question here. Does the knob allow easy tap tempo settings? He's thinking live use, or can the audio inputs do a beat analysis, tempo sync? Are the ARP engines sync on both sides? Great question, Nick.
Metronome. So we go shift to metronome, long press to edit. Tempo sync, transport. I was just trying to think where. I'm sure I saw tap tempo. I think tap tempo is not done through the screen encoder, as I'm going to call it from now on. I think. Hang on. Shift tempo, long shift to edit. And that's just metronome and volume. No, that's not going to give me. I'm sure I saw tap tempo somewhere. Leave it with me. I'll see if I can figure it out. Actually,
Great. And then he also asks, essentially, are the ARP engines on two synths side by side auto sync? So do they both sync together? So if you've got a split, you've got two patches up, will both ARPs run in sync?
I believe they will, either to the internal clock on the AstroLab or to the external clock that you might be feeding in.
But they'll be in sync with each other. So they won't be running it.
Well, yes, because there are not two clocks. There's just one clock.
Yeah. That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Hope that answers your question, Nick.
Right.
Send chocolate. Is it semi-weighted, Ian? Yes, it is. Move to Stroud.
Here's a potential way of doing what we wanted, because we can assign, for example, the mod wheel can be assigned to various different things, but I'm not entirely sure if it can be assigned. Same with the aftertouch. I'm not just wondering if you could assign some of these.
Expression pedal.
So if I open that and go assign, no, it just takes me back to the Analog Lab page and not the synth page.
What about right-clicking on the control and then on the GUI of the synth, and then moving the control you want to assign it to, type thing? Will it do that way around?
Nope.
Don't look it, does it?
Doesn't look like it.
Not even right-click.
What is the controller for attack?
Oh, hang on. A cotton picking minute.
One cotton picking minute. Hang on a minute.
Over here in the advanced tools section, under the macros, brightness, timbre, time, and movement have all been assigned. Of course, you see, we get there in the end. So, if I click on the, let's see,
time.
Let's click on the time. So at the moment, that's the envelope generator to decay time, right? So if I click on learn, there we go. And if we click on attack time, and we'll get rid of. Right? How do I get rid of that? Do I just? Oh, I don't know. But let's just mess around with that. I'm just trying to figure out how you delete
how about
a destination.
How about learn and unclick it? So just do that and click on decay time.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Bang.
Oh no,
it's not.
No.
Weird.
No, click on learn and then move the control you want to control. No, it won't. You do that, will it? No, it won't. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
With you.
Okay, so
Jimmy, Wad A.
That looks like, yeah. I think that's. So it's just adding attack time in there. I want to get. How do I get rid of that? Ah, there you go. Delete. Sorry. Right.
RTFM.
Indeed, yeah.
Right, so let's do enveloping now.
Excuse moi.
So minimum, let's just set the... Why is it not doing that? Sorry, quit that. Right. Okay, so we've got the max in there. Envelope generator attack. So why isn't it moving? And that, now we're definitely having a synclavier moment.
Perhaps you press back and that then puts it into... That then...
No.
No?
Ah, there we go.
So you can. Hurrah,
So you can.
hurrah.
There you go.
So you could assign...
Who was that who asked that? Was that Jim? Is Jim still around?
I
There
don't
he is,
know,
yeah.
but it was a question I think lots of people were into. So the answer is yes, you can. You can assign... Oh, that's brilliant. So for live, you can put those things into your heart's content.
You
Wow.
can't see what I'm seeing on screen at the moment. I use this little thing called Grammarly. Even though I like to think I've got a pretty good grasp of it, it's a useful little thing. And every time you click, if you have to turn it off. Otherwise, if you click on a text field, it says, "Oh, I've got a suggestion for you." I've got a suggestion for you, pal. There you go. There. See, so you can.
Cool.
And if I close Analog Lab, so that's let's do that. I'm going to let's just shut it down. Oh, do you know, if I shut it down, I'm just gonna... Well,
have you transferred that across to...
No, because it's doing it. It does it directly into the synth.
Okay, so if you shut that down, it should now be... That preset should now be in there doing that.
So let me just quit Analog this. There we go. Right, so... It's there. It's in the synth. So there.
Hurrah!
There we go.
So you can assign whatever the blummin' heck you like.
Indeed.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. We've just accidentally attached that knob to Kent being in his room.
Oh yeah, we've turned him off.
We've turned it... Oh, no. Oh, blimey, what are we going to do about that? This is gin, folks. This is neat. Oh, no. Oh, it's water. Oh.
Oh dear, not good. Ah, right. Okay.
Elders, it's water. It's nothing like gin. I love you all. You're my favourite.
All right, let me just get back
Us.
into that and that.
If you just change patches, Kent's come back.
See, yeah. So I just quickly want to go through the settings within the keyboard. So let me. I don't think I can make that any larger, as the actress said to the bishop.
Well, no, it's only 61 keys.
So-
Of course you can't. I mean, you know, really.
Here I am at the home. This is the home screen.
Home
And
screen.
in the middle of the home screen, it says types, and around the edge, you've got a little dot. You can see a little dot just there.
Yeah,
So we have types, we have instruments, we have artists, we have liked presets, sound banks, playlists, and settings. So types then gives us instrument types, so bass, keys, lead, pad, piano, electric piano, organ, strings, brass and wind, drums, sequence, and vocal. Again, this is all mirrored.
Tachyderms.
No. Then you have artists. So this is where you've got these artist tributes patches.
Picasso. There's
So
Rembrandt.
Aha, Air, Alan Parsons, Aphex, Beatles, Berlin, boards of Canada, Bonobo, Bruno Mars, so on and so forth. And these are just a handful of sounds from each of these banks, which you can buy full versions of within the store. There's a huge bunch of those in there, and these are all included in the machine. There's quite a bit of stuff in there for you to mess around with and have fun with. Then you've got liked presets. Well, I haven't actually liked anything at the moment, so if I select that, it's going to tell me that there are no liked presets. And that's just simply because I haven't liked any. But you can go through AstroLab and just click heart on all the patches you want to, and then as long as it's linked, it will all show up in here as well. Then we have sound banks. So if you've bought any sound banks, these will appear in here. So you've got the AstroLab factory bank, and then the AstroLab factory bank in there. Then you've got playlists, and again, we've only got the AstroLab demo play, so you select those, and for example, you've got this one, which is unplugged something or other. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button there. So that brings in all of those patches that are in that playlist, so you can then select those. From the playlist, and then finally you have the settings, and does exactly what it says on the tin. So you have general settings, settings for the USB drive support, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, MIDI, controls, pedals. With the pedals you can adjust the polarity internally within the keyboard. You can also set what the auxiliary pedal ports do. So there are 2 of those. So if you're like Kent and you have a whole farm of expression pedals, you can assign those as you like. And then utility is just things like click to load. So the other thing is, if with the dial you can either just let the sound load automatically once you stop on it, or you can select it and click it to load it. So yeah, you can do a factory initialization, and you can even show the CPU, which some of the very eagle-eyed of you might be able to see that right down here. That little number there is how much CPU is being used. So this is American Grand, which is a physically modelled acoustic grand piano, and that's currently using about 30% of the CPU, which is being physically modelled. You would have imagined that was probably doing that. But as soon as you start getting into the synths and stuff, it does drop down a little bit. But they're not massively CPU intensive, and of course it's the CPU of the keyboard that's being used and not the CPU of your computer. So so I think that's pretty much
it, isn't it? I mean,
that's
insofar as we can. That didn't go bang. It hasn't caught fire.
It hasn't gone bang, nor have I gone bang. I mean,
was that Patrick Moraz walked in the room? Did he? Oh, it was Patrick.
I can use my expression pedal plugged in. I can do that jazz organist thing.
You're going to have to watch this back and see the face you made when you did that.
I normally don't use my sex face when I'm playing Hammond.
Is that my sex face?
It's a rule I stick by.
Yeah.
Actually, if I put this into scale mode.
Scale.
So what shall I? C major. There you go. That's as good as any. Okay. So. That's chord mode, by the way. Scale.
I've got that in my kettle at the moment. I need to get the
scale is on. Let's change that to major ninth. And
It's astonishing the difference.
isn't it? All parts. Oh, I don't know. I'm rubbish.
What face does Kent make when he plays his organ? The same.
That's an image I don't want in my head.
Same face that Pete Townsend used when he's accusing a deck chair of being gay.
What? What?
So if you can work that out, then you'll know. That'll keep him up at night, won't it?
It's going to keep me up at night, that. Pete,
Trust me,
what's
at my
this about
age,
the deck chair?
Pretty much anything can keep me up at
Daily
night.
Express headline.
Yeah. No, it does.
Okay, so Andrew's asking a vital question. Is it any good? And
That's a very good question.
Well,
it's a very-
conclusion.
conclusion, yeah. So in conclusion,
Yeah.
In conclusion.
in general, it's a very well built machine. It does exactly what it says it does do. It is a stage keyboard. It feels like one. It feels like it's got the build quality and the simplicity of the user interface to be just something that you can just go on stage and know that you've got all of these amazing sounds at your fingertips, and then some, because AstroLab is just a massive repository. And you've got, like I said, almost 23 gig of storage in here, so you can load this thing up, and you're getting the quality of Arturia software instruments, which are undoubtedly some of the finest vintage emulations in software of many synthesizers. And some might agree, some might not, but I think it's generally accepted that they are pretty damn good. And now you've got all of those in the keyboard. I think if you have been looking for pigments in a piece of hardware, this is kind of getting there, because you can put pigment sounds in here, so you can take those wonderful pigment sounds and start playing them in this machine. You can't obviously do the whole deep editing aspect, because that would just be far too complicated. It's the pigments interface is a very bold thing, and it's got lots of stuff on this. So this is the next best thing that you'll get to having pigments in a piece of hardware.
I think what's been really interesting about, I'm being serious for a minute, what's really interesting about this is trying to find ways to, once Jim raised the idea of, or the notion of, can you do ADSR, or whoever it was. And the fact is, like with any live keyboard, for any set, one of the things you end up doing is trying to find ways to do things in a package that's not necessarily the full 9 yards, to make it work so that when you're doing something live, you'll find a way to do the things you need to. And in this case, it was ADSR. How do you? And you can map it. I know we didn't necessarily keep all the sound when it came back across. I think that was operator error or switching it off early or something.
Probably the first one.
But you can do that. You can actually assign that, like you can with any sort of live setup. And you can use another controller, as we saw, put it on the left there or somewhere else. You can control it that way as well. So I think for the product itself, as a live keyboard, you have the sounds, the light, the design of it. I know someone said they wanted it in black and with lots of other things.
Oh, that'll
always
come.
want something else.
That'll come.
For live, this works.
Mm-hmm.
When the lights get down a little low, you're going to be able to see absolutely everything. It's a good thing. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
I have
And
to say, I'm more impressed than I thought.
It's not just live. This works well in the studio as well. I mean, I don't play live, and yet I've been sat here, and what it's done is it's focused my attention. A lot of the time, you open up Logic or something, or whatever, whatever DAW that you use, you open it up, and you start going through the
endlessly
plugins,
scrolling through.
Yeah. Oh, I want this. Oh, can I get it from this? If you just use this, it kind of focuses. I know that you've still got a lot of choice in there, But the very fact that it allows you to, like, one press of a key will get you a whole bunch of lead sounds, but not just lead sounds from one synthesizer, lead sounds from a range of synthesizers. But maybe you do want an MS-20, maybe you do want a CMI, then you can zone in very quickly on that. And so it really does kind of focus, it focuses you in that respect. So I think it has a place in both the studio and live. And for those people that have a foot either side of that line, it's going to be brilliant. Live musicians will be able to work on stuff at home and then just dump it into the keyboard, stick it in a bag, and away you go. Session players will be able to do the same. They can go from one studio to another studio and just have an enormous wealth of sound. Whereas if you were to take a more traditional stage keyboard that just has pianos and organs and electric pianos and maybe some sampled sounds in there, and I think that was one of the points that they were making in their keynote speech today, is that you've got stage keyboards that have synthesizer sounds, but they're mostly sample based, and so they then have some sort of limitation. You can't dig into them, whereas with this you can absolutely dig into every single sound, particularly if you own V Collection as well. What I would like to see, and this doesn't do, I don't know if anybody else has thought about this, but the first thing I thought of, when you connect an Arturia controller like Minilab or Keylab, and you're using say for example the Prophet 5 plugin from V Collection, as soon as you choose that plugin, sorry, I just got my cable caught on the chair there. As soon as you choose that plugin, the controls map to a set of controls in the plugin, and also the display gives you feedback that is relative to that particular plugin. So it's almost like there's two-way communication between the keyboard and the plugin. That works with AstroLab on AstroLab, but it doesn't work with the V Collection. So if you're not using AstroLab and you just fire up one of the V Collection instruments on its own, you don't get that information sent through to AstroLab. So you won't see...
Oh, right.
So, again, it's not what it's designed for. I'm asking it to do something that it wasn't designed to do, but it would be nice. And again, maybe that's something that can come in a firmware update, where they can just get that Keylab and Minilab functionality for the individual V Collection instruments into this as well, and that would be a real bonus. And maybe that's something they're saving up for version 2
a rainy
firmware
day or whatever.
That sort of thing. And I'm sure we will see lots of improvements. I think we'll see things like CPU usage improvements as they refine the software and they get user feedback. But I think this is genuinely a really nice thing. It isn't for everyone, and as soon as I got this, or actually as soon as I had my call with Arturia and they explained in great detail what this is, I could almost instantly hear the voices of dissent. Oh, well, you can't grab hold of individual functions, and it's not very detailed, and I want, I'm not poo-pooing the suggestion that it would be nice to have a direct access to the envelope generator or something, but it's not what it's designed for.
For me, for live, the simplicity of this, aside from the ADSR, which I know I can now route if I need to, the simplicity of this for live really works. It really works. I've got synth. I've got the Novation Supernova, which has all the knobs on I could ever want for doing all that kind of stuff if I want to. But this, I can walk. You're right. I can walk into a studio. I can do a whole bunch of stuff with V Collection or whatever. Dump those into Analog Labs. Transfer them through to here. That's my lifestyle. I pick it up, walk into my gig, and I've got the sounds I just had.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's really, really.
And
cool.
if you're a musician that works in the studio and maybe you've done an album and you've got a whole bunch of V Collection presets, you can throw them into Analog Lab really simply, create a playlist, dump those sounds out from your studio session into your machine, and then go out and play live with the exact same sounds that you had on your recording. So it can live in both worlds, even though it is primarily.
I just love the fact that it's all residing in the hardware. You can unplug it from the computer. Away you go. You've got those sounds then in here.
Yeah.
That's really smart, really clever. I like it a lot. And I'm sure they're going to do more with this platform now.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think this is just the beginning of even more, blurring of that line between hardware and software, which is clearly what they've been trying to do.
Just
for
as a
ages.
word of sort of a thought, as it were, that if you're thinking, well, you've only got 2 sounds. Someone said, would it be good if it was 4 layers and more voices and blah 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 blah. Think of the Roland Z, whatever it is, thing, where you have to download, outplug stuff in. You still only get the 8 voices or the 4 voices or whatever. You only get 1 at a time or possibly 2. But you don't have all the controls, but you have enough. This is a live thing, so it's not doing. It's doing the same as others are doing, but different in that it's doing a whole bunch. It's not just the Roland synth or whatever it is. It's everything they've already got in Analog Labs, which suddenly opens up a world of possibilities. It's a very good thing.
James makes a point here. So, do you think Roland will be looking at this and thinking we've got to do one? They kind of did with the System 8.
Yeah,
and the plug outs, and I was talking to our friend
they
Matt.
have with the latest. They have with the latest thing they've done as well.
Yeah, the Juno X. You can send instruments from.
What was the thing we reviewed on Friday?
The Phantom EX. Oh no, sorry. On Friday.
Yeah, the key not key
Oh,
labs.
Go Keys.
Go Keys. That's pretty much what they've done.
In a way, yeah. They use the Zencore engine, and rather than instruments, you're basically downloading patches, but they're patches that use the same engine as the standalone instruments for sure. Yeah.
Boom.
This is it's a similar thing. Although I would say the System 8 and the whole plug out thing was probably more akin to this, because you could send an instrument.
Yeah.
To the keyboard, although there was only a small amount of instruments that you could send and store at any one time, whereas this, what's it, 39 instruments in here. The only, and I will mention this now, the only instrument that isn't included in AstroLab, it's included in Analog Lab, but you can't put it into AstroLab, is the Mellotron V. And I know why it's not, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm allowed to say why it's not. However, you can get around that by using the sampling function. So you can, and then what they've also done is they've taken a lot of the kind of classic Mellotron patches. For example, if I go to, where are we? If I go to the artist page, and then go to Beatles Tribute, the first. So there are Mellotron style patches in there, but
That'll
the
never catch on.
No,
No
the
one will ever
Mellotron
use
V
that sound.
is the one instrument that is not included as an instrument that can be used in AstroLab directly.
Is that a license thing, is it?
As I said, I know exactly why it is, and I'm not sure I can say why
So let's not go
in the public domain, so I shan't. But it's entirely up to you, and people will obviously speculate.
When you actually transfer samples in, does it have a methodology for you laying those samples across and mapping them, or do you have to do that in another app?
So let's just go back here. So when I got this, I was reading through the instructions and the manuals, and they mentioned this sampler instrument, and I couldn't find it. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is a beta thing, because I've been used up until 6:45. I was still using the beta version of firmware and software, and I managed to update it all just before we came on air, which was a silly thing to do, really, because if it hadn't worked, it would have been right up the Swanee.
You like to live dangerously.
I do. So I'm told that there is a sampler function, but I haven't found or used it. Yes, you can use, say, for example, you can upload your samples into, say, CMI V, which is the Fairlight thing, and they've got the emulator instrument in there, so you can upload your samples into those machines and then send those patches across to AstroLab. But unless I've completely misunderstood it, I'm told that there is a sampler addition to this, and I haven't tried it yet, but I'm told that it uses the SFZ format, and I need to look into that, but that's what I'm told. So
good format, very robust format.
Well, exactly, and it's universal, and there's so much stuff out there already. So
one day I'll share my story about SFZ.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, would I, if I hadn't got one sat here, and I don't know how long I've got this here for, so I don't know, but if they ask for it back, would I miss it? A little, but then I'm not the target market.
No.
I am.
But you would be. So if you were given one of these, would you lap it up, and then
I'd
if they
lock
took
the
it
door.
away, would
They'd
you
never
cry?
get the bug. They'd never see it back again. It's
There
a
you
really, it's a good. As a live, as a gigging player,
Yeah.
it's hitting the money. I hope they do bring out a 76 and or an 88. I just as it is, exactly as it is, I could navigate around that. I would have one or possibly two of these for live, and that would cover most things. I might have something else.
Yeah.
Although I don't want to lift this. So,
Well, exactly.
But
Yeah.
that's even with just two of those exactly as they are, that would be a really good setup for live.
For a live stroke mobile performer, whether you're in studios or on stage, I think it's a no-brainer.
Earlier on as well, someone said for the worship market, the church market, certainly in the US, it's going to be big.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely right. It will be.
We'll have to speak to our resident worship keyboard player, Mr. Justin Have You. He would be able to give it. Certainly now he's got a Montage M8X. It's not like he's lacking. Last week, it was last week. I think it was. Yeah, last week.
It was.
Yeah, because his pastor ordered it. So, yeah. So, personally, I've got one here, and I'm enjoying it. If they took it away from me tomorrow, I would miss it in terms of that kind of immediacy and focus that it gives me with these things. But I've got all the sounds anyway because I've got V Collection and I've got Arturia controllers. Although I can use other controllers. So I don't think I would miss it terribly. But if I was a live player, then I probably would. But I'm not.
I like this a lot.
And I think the price is very good.
It's not bad.
When you look at all the other specific stage keyboards, you look at some of the stuff that Yamaha does, like the the C. I can't remember what it is now. It's the C something, isn't it?
CU Jimmy.
CU. Is it CK? I think it's the CK, and then they got the YCs or so.
But this,
I
keep coming back to this because it keeps on springing into my head, unbidden as it were. This really is on stage. This would be my
Thank you, Gary.
Mini Moog, my CMI, my CS80, all of those keyboards, and I can get Poly from any of these other things, so I can run it from there. But this isn't emulations of those. This is those instruments. Well, it is emulations, if you will.
Emulations of the original hardware,
models, and we know that the Arturia modelling is really good.
Yeah, absolutely,
it's really good. So that gives me
it
gives me the proper, essentially the proper instruments for live.
One thing that I've seen pop up in various places in the last sort of 4 or 5 hours is it hasn't got any faders on it. So if I'm doing drawbar stuff, there's a lot of stage keyboards do have drawbar simulations. So whether it's faders that are simply drawbars or that double up as other things, and I keep looking at this white space here and thinking that would have been perfect. Put your faders there, make them drawbars, and double them up as other things. And
76 note.
Well, no, what I'm thinking is because immediately underneath this area you've got the USB port, which is designed to power external USB devices. I wonder, wouldn't it be fun if Arturia, or maybe a very clever third party, created a small tabletop MIDI controller with just 9 faders that would fit just there, and all you have to have is a short MIDI USB cable.
Studio Logic do one.
You could put an Impulsker in there and then get GeForce and them to talk. No, it's never going to work.
But I'm sure there are probably standalone fader boxes already.
There are, yeah.
So, yeah.
Be laughing if it's Bluetooth as well.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just wonder, maybe somebody at Arturia said, look, if we leave the faders off, not everyone would use it, and so it's kind of we can offer it as an option. What would you charge? I don't know, 150, 200 quid for a nicely well built thing, and you can just sit it there, plug it into the USB, no other power required. Boom, there you go. There's some faders that you can use for drawbars.
Just put a lip on it at the back so it hangs in there.
Yeah,
perfect.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating. It just seems
it's a good thing.
Do you remember when we first saw this? Mm-hmm. When some idiot on the internet shared a video that he found.
Yeah.
And there were 2 keyboards. One which I'm sure we'll learn about soon. And this one was at the back. And most of us were going, oh, what's that? And we were all very, very keen. And here it is. And I'm not disappointed. Now I know what it is. Because I think my instant thought was, because of this large screen encoder, I thought
that's
it looked
clever.
Yeah, I thought it looked like the augmented interface, the augmented strings, augmented whatever it is, but that kind of a big thing. I thought, maybe this is a sample-based machine with all of those augmented sounds built in. But it's that, and it's everything else on top of that, because all of those augmented instruments work in here, plus all the others. So it's even better. I think it's a great way to kick off their 25th anniversary. And I can't tell you what's coming down the line, but I can tell you that it's good. And there are at least 2 things that are going to blow people's minds. Seriously blow people's minds. Cake is one of them, and pop was the other.
Pop.
Fizzy pop. Cherryade.
Oh.
Corona. Corona Cherryade.
It could only be Corona.
Not Cherryade.
Yeah, Cherryade.
Yeah.
Cream soda.
Oh, that too.
Corona cream soda.
Yeah, it had to be Corona.
It has to be Corona.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Yeah. But look, this is, the other thing is, we haven't really mentioned is Arturia are 25 years old. Which,
happy birthday to them.
Which is a remarkable achievement in this industry on its own for an independent company to start from nothing. 2 guys at university, not even studying the thing, but they just had an interest in music and music technology, and they got together and said, why don't we create a piece of software? And they did, and it came out around the same time as Reason came out, so it wasn't like
Storm?
they copied Reason. Yeah,
was
called
it
Storm.
Storm?
Yeah, Storm. And it was this kind of sandbox environment where you had different instruments and things, and you had it all in there. And then a few years later, they're working with Dr. Bob Moog. Yeah, they're working with Dr. Bob Moog on the Moog modular plugin.
Yeah.
Which, again, I remember when that came out, and we're like, a Moog modular on a computer? Oh. And of course, there were a few people thinking it doesn't sound like a Moog modular. It sounded like no other possible piece of software. Yeah, but it sounded like no other thing could sound like a Moog modular in software,
Yeah.
And then they just went from strength to strength, and here we are 25 years later. And I will say right now, and I'll go on record, they are to me now as big and as influential as Roland, Yamaha or Korg have ever been in their entire existence. They are producing more innovative pieces of music technology than those companies are producing themselves today.
In many ways, they've actually replaced the position that Yamaha used to be in.
Yeah.
Because Yamaha had been letting it go for some time, So it got to the point where there was Roland, Korg.
Yeah. No, I think it's just amazing to see what Arturia have achieved in 25 years. Go onto their website and go to their products page and just slowly scroll through. You will be there for some time, because it's not just software plugins. There are effects plugins. It's not just analog synthesizers. There's digital synthesizers. There's keyboards. There's modules. There's controllers. You know, there's just this the audio interfaces,
cake mixers.
Anyway, so there's so much that they've done, and that's not including the products that have been and gone, that have been retired. So they've just achieved so much, and you know, they set out with this ambition of creating musical instruments that could be run on a computer. And it was obvious they were working towards bringing those, you know, the hardware world and the software world together. They've kind of done that in the past with various controllers. Now this is clever, is what this is. Yeah. This is very clever. Those two things have been brought together. They've now had a baby, and the baby is AstroLab. You know,
it's a very clever thing.
Yeah. What Kent? You've been rather quiet, auspicious in your learned position there. What do you think of AstroLab? I mean, I guess it's possibly not for you, but
no, it's definitely not for me, because this is a keyboard that is designed for people who are able to go out of their own front door, and I can see precisely where the advantages of this machine is for live use. In fact, I feel slightly cheated, because it's actually the perfect thing for it. And I go, oh, it's not really for me, is it? So
it's only because you're a colossal. No, well, anyway, we won't go.
Well, yeah, but that is the point. You know, when you're a colossal whatever, it's not going to appeal. And I can say, so I couldn't. What's the word? I couldn't quantify having said item in here. Although, if there was an 88 full whistles, full nut stiffy version of that, I'd be going, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. I think that would swing it for me, because to have this since it arrived, I've had to relegate the KX88 into the corner of the studio, because I wanted it here.
Yeah.
And what it has done is, it's given me that focus, and it's given me a bit more room, because that KX88 takes a lot. But if they did an 88 version of this, I'd be very interested.
Well, a 76.
Because it would then be a controller.
76 would work. 76.
Oh yeah, I suppose. Yeah, 76, as long as it had a nice weighted action to it.
Let's just see what happens over the next
even
week or two.
Even the Aftertouch being channel isn't a problem, because nearly all the MPE keyboards that I have in here are capable of receiving and dealing with channel Aftertouch anyway. So it will work either way. So it's cool. I mean, I know it's become a bit of a mainstay now, that if something doesn't have Aftertouch in it, somehow it's like, well, that's not very good, is it? Whereas it spent 35 years trying to get people to even recognise it. Again, nobody wanted anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And now it's become like, if you haven't got it, it's like buying a car with no wheels on it. Yeah.
And my one of my colleagues at Arturia said, they said to me today, AstroLab responds to Poly AT over MIDI, but there are only at the moment a few patches, mainly in the CS80, that respond to it.
Yeah.
And they expect it to be expanded. And here you go. I read through this quite quickly. There is a possibility, a very strong possibility, that MPE support in the future will be added.
Yeah.
So don't quote me or my colleague on that, but that's a possibility.
But what I'm saying is, it not having it at this precise moment in time is not the killer.
No.
Here's a really interesting comment. So they are so much better at doing software hardware integrations than, say, Roland. Well, that's neither here nor there. But But it's a very good point in that because it's software driven, they started with software and they've had this idea kicking around for 10 years, and you can see that in the simplicity of the interface.
Yeah.
It's very clever. Yes, they'll be able to update this and do all sorts of firmware updates, including reassigning those knobs and giving them different, there's going to be all sorts of things they can do with this. So yeah, don't sweat.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to be able to, they are, because they're not.
Absolutely.
They've made a very flexible platform here, and more is going to come from this. Take my word for that.
Yeah.
Well, don't take my word for it, but I can definitely see that's something that's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
So I mean, this is the start of some really cool stuff for the 25th anniversary, and watch this space, because Arturia, and I want to go on record. Actually, I'll look at the camera for this one. I want to say a massive thank you to the various people at Arturia that I've been dealing with over the last few weeks and months leading up to this point. You've been super helpful, and we as a channel fully appreciate everything you do, because it gets us the opportunity to do this. I get the opportunity to dick around with new stuff, and that's really so. Thank you for your support, Arturia, and given what I know is coming down the line, I hope that you continue to do so, because there is good. Honestly, I'm itching to tell people, but obviously I can't. So
the Wave 4. It's the Wave 4.
Yeah, the Wave 4. Can we? No, we'll leave that till Friday. This is exclusively this. No, Andrew, we haven't. Go to bed anyway. No, but we're going to draw this thing to a close.
He clearly wants us to tuck him in again.
He's like that. So happy birthday, Arturia. Thank you and congratulations. Yes. And that was the AstroLab. And if I could remember the chords to... No, I can't do Strawberry Fields. I don't know. Let's...
You fucking shit, you will.
I am. Just trying to find some sounds that don't need much input from the performer.
Any
would be nice, wouldn't it?
Play the end track.
How about Stairway to Andy's Bed?
Stairway to Andy's Bed. Ooh, misses. Actually, that's
a nice sound.
Let me bring up some of the augmented stuff, because that's quite nice. Augmented strings.
It sounded convincing for 2 seconds.
I do
lovely.
Like those.
Hans is looking worried.
Let's hold that.
Oh, that's a nice effect.
One patch on
nice,
but yeah, I mean,
do you know what, we should have done that right at the beginning. That made such a difference.
The sounds really aren't the star of this product. The product, it's the actual hardware.
Performance is the performance.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing, and you can get lost in it. And just in case anybody missed it last time,
that was Rachmaninoff's Blueberry Hill.
Yeah.
In H minor.
In H minor.
So, in case this is your first time watching us, I'm sorry.
He does play better than this, honest.
I don't play better than that.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. This is why I use technology to help me play my music.
Oh, we all do that.
Yeah, quite. There were a couple of last-minute questions. Is it like having backstage? And I know you corrected that to main stage. Yes, it kind of is. I would like to speak to someone who is a hardcore main stage user and say, have a look at this and tell me what you think. That would be an interesting thing to do.
It's a different thing.
But it is. But in a way, main stage is a way of carrying all of your plugins in a laptop and just have that one application with a unified interface.
Carrying a laptop.
But it means carrying a laptop, and this is why I would like to see or hear what a dedicated main stage user would think of such a thing. Lovely Robert says, referring to the history of Arturia. Yes, they did, because the Mini Brute was like under 500 quid, and it was a proper analog hardware synth.
We know, Andrew, you're supposed to be in bed. Of course, H is a proper thing.
And it was real built and all.
And did I turn off my studio lights to show what it's looked? Well, shall we do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I'll turn off this light because that's that. And let me just bring this up full and get rid of that.
Yeah.
If I turn this one off.
Ooh.
Say Alexa lights blue, because that's probably more of a.
Looks like Duran Duran's Orgasmatron.
Alexa lights blue. Alexa, you bitch, lights blue. Oh, well, look, you get the idea. You're in a seedy West End bar. It's red lights everywhere.
Yeah.
But does that give you an idea? I mean,
yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
You're on the Graham Norton show.
Well, I do like, because these are endless encoders, and one of the problems you get with using these is that as you skip from patch to patch, the setting of that knob will be in different places, and as soon as you change, you can see exactly where it is,
and so it just picks up from where it.
So I just think it's a very simple thing, and I'm sure other keyboards do it. But
they should use this for public transport, because that way, whenever you want something, it picks up exactly from where you need to be picked up straight away.
Yeah.
There you go. That's public transport model. Thank you. I thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, that looks awful. Hang on.
But you're about to shut the show down, aren't we?
I was, but I'm going to shut it down looking somewhat professional.
It doesn't look like he's stalking.
That's a first.
Yeah. So,
Do
take
we
one
have
last...
that?
Take one last look.
That preset.
Yeah. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That has been the Arturia AstroLab in all of its glory. If you have any further questions for that, about this for us, don't forget you can ask us on a regular show on a Friday. We'll be here this coming Friday. We have special guests. And if you want to know why we've got those special guests, keep an eye on the interwebs tomorrow, is all I will say, because you'll understand then why we are being joined by Kim Bjorn and Dr. Mike Metley.
It's the washing machine reveal, isn't it? That's what they're doing. It's washing machine packaging.
Washing machines.
Mike
Danish washing machines.
Yep. That's what it is.
So, come and join us on Friday, because that's going to be a lot of fun. Because obviously it's got Mike Metley on the show, and Kim's a superb guy, and we'll be talking about something very special that they've been working on for a while. So, come and join us for that. Patreon, there's going to be some new free stuff for our Patreon subscribers coming soon. I will get to that either tonight or tomorrow. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, you'll get those or get that information. somebody's at my front door apparently. If you want to join that,
I have dogs for that.
Patreon.com/ProSynth Network. You can sign up to that, and it's just a minimum $2 a month. That's all we ask for, and we will get some extra stuff posted on there. At the moment, there's patches for all sorts of things, and there's something very nice and very special that's been donated to us. Oh, excuse me. And keep your peepers peeled over the next month or so, because we're going to be running something with a prize attached to it. Don't worry, we're not giving away the AstroLab.
Where's my sanity?
Yeah, we're going to be giving something away, and we'll be giving something away that's software, but also maybe something that's hardware as well. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. So yeah, stick around.
In a box.
Give us a like and a subscribe. Hit that notification button if you want to get informed of our shows as they're coming. And of course, the next one is 7 p.m. UK time, which is 8 p.m. Central European time, 11 a.m. on the west coast of the US, 2 p.m. on the east coast. Come and join us on a Friday evening, every Friday evening, where we do more of this stuff for about the same length of time. And until then, enjoy the rest of your week. And
2.5 hours.
Yeah, I know. See you on Friday.
See you on Friday.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Look at the mood quickly, because it might be a burnt out husk by Friday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed it won't be. Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Run the titles.
Bye.
Bye.